Join UF Hall of Famer and 14-year NFL vet Shane Matthews every weekday as he brings you all you need to know about your Florida Gators, including news, analysis, and opinions with some of the biggest names in sports. Find us on Spotify, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, or wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. Or watch us live at 8 a.m. on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter.
Boom, baby. Welcome in this Thursday edition of PodUp with Matthews in the morning. Seth Harp in for the QB. Brent Beaird joining us here momentarily as we get you geared up for championship week in college football. Looks like we pretty much know who 9 of the 12 or 8 of the I think it's 9 of the 12, right? Teams are going to be in the college football playoff. Just a question of where they're going to be slotted. Also, could anything be done to jostle the Heisman Trophy race down the stretch? We do know at least one of the candidates is in action this weekend, and Ashton Jeanty and Boise State taking on UNLV. Travis Hunter, season at least done as far as we know, as he waits in the wings to see where he slides and if Jeanty can knock him off the perch. And I guess the debate is who is going to finish third. So Brent Beaird's coming in here momentarily. PodUp with Matthews in the morning on this Thursday, the 5th day of December, coming to you live from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios. Large enough to serve you, small enough to care. You want to chime in, you can do so via several routes. Meldon Law Facebook Live, the only official injury and law firm accident partner of the Florida Gators. YouTube Live, you can fire off your questions via YouTube, courtesy of Quality Plumbing, residential and commercial plumbing services and emergency repair since 1984. Their name says it all. The Titan MRI text line, easy enough. 352-353-7465. That's 352-353-7465. Brent Beaird enters stage right. I'm glad we're doing this show today, Brent, because a lot of people love rivalry week, and I do too. It's pretty cool. It's amazing, especially given the anteing up of flag planting, and I want to ask you about that coming up here as well. But this weekend is an impact weekend. None of the seeds, even though I think you and I probably agree that at least 8 or 9 of the teams we know who is going to make it, but none of the seeds are safe at this point. One could be Penn State, one could be Oregon, 2 could be Texas, 2 could be Georgia. So we're going to get your thoughts on that, but I want to start off with the Heisman with you, Brent, and welcome in. I look at it, you've got the most dynamic season a running back has had since Barry Sanders, and Ashton Jeanty, and Travis Hunter is the Shohei Ohtani of college football. So where do we begin, Brett?
Well, good morning. Thanks for helping us out, Seth, as always. Before I mention the Heisman Trophy, let me mention that congratulations to the SEC and just absolutely obliterating the ACC and the SEC-ACC basketball matchup, and it wasn't even close. Frankly, the only losers, Kentucky lost and Auburn lost. Everyone else won. It was 14-2, and I'll be brief about this, but we have seen times to where that would have been reversed, right, Seth? To where the ACC would have won 14-2. But look, most of these wins from the SEC were by double digits. So congrats to SEC basketball and how well they're playing right now. Back to the Heisman. We have a deadline Monday at 5 o'clock in order to get the votes in, and after that happens, and by the way, your leading not vote getters, but the odds right now, as you mentioned, Travis Hunter of Colorado is first, Ashton Jeanty of Boise State second, Cam Ward is third, and Dylan Gabriel of Oregon is 4. Now, what's unusual about that is there's no one from the SEC that's listed here. The last time that's happened was in 2016 when Jonathan Allen of Alabama was number 7. And this is amazing. 2017, the highest SEC Heisman finisher was Teron Johnson of Auburn, a running back. So some really unusual things here. We may have one of the first non-quarterback winners in quite a while. And it just, Seth, it's just a very unusual Heisman situation this year.
Yeah, and not only your two main candidates, off the beaten path, they're not from what you can. I mean, Colorado was the laughing stock of Power 5 and now Power 4 football as early as 36 months ago. And Boise State's always been out there on their little island that sometimes pop and had a good run for about half a decade in there. I was looking at the numbers, okay? And it's tough to numberize or numeralize what Travis Hunter has done at Colorado, right? Because 15 touchdowns, 1,100 yards receiving. You'd be like, okay, that's a decent year. But then you got to combine with he has the 3 fewest targets of any DB in all of Power 5 football. They don't throw his way. And when they do, he's got 4 interceptions and a touchdown off of a fumble that sealed a game for Colorado. So he's the complete package. He's what you would call Charles Woodson 2.0, right? Except Travis is more dominant on the receiving side than on the DB side. Champ Bailey, he's that guy all rolled into one and better collegiately than both of those guys. And then look at Genty, almost 2,300 yards rushing, 29 touchdowns. That made me go back and look, and I pulled the Barry Sanders stat. Brett, you ready for this? Some 36 years ago, 2,628 rushing yards, 37 touchdowns, and he did it in 11 games.
Listen, people don't remember this, and I invite them to Google it. Barry Sanders was basically almost. Listen, they could, Seth, correct me if I'm wrong, but they could have been playing 2-hand tag, and they would not have got him down if they would have had that situation. Barry Sanders was that good. The thing with Travis Hunter, the thing I want to find out too, is how many plays has he been on the field? I mean, there was a game recently, he was on the field 160 plays. Now, that doesn't mean he goes all out on 160 plays. As Shane has said, he knows when to go all out. He knows when to probably take a play off. But Seth, that's still just remarkable, isn't it?
Yeah.
To have someone involved and basically he never comes off the field, does he?
No. The only thing I can compare him to is Ohtani from the Dodgers. It's the only thing I can try to think of in sports. And that, you can go back to Jim Thorpe, and you can go back to guys that did multiple things at the same time. And Deion Sanders, to some extent, how ironic is that? But Deion was more of special teams in DB than he was offense in DB. But what Travis Hunter has done is amazing. So Brett, right now, Hunter 1, Genty 2, and I'm struggling to find a 3. I think Dylan Gabriel at Oregon is probably going to put himself in a great position this weekend against Penn State, being in that spotlight game on Saturday night. But Cam Ward, from 4,200 yards passing, 36 touchdowns, 7 picks, another couple hundred yards rushing and 4 touchdowns. I think today I'd go Hunter, Genty, Ward.
Yeah. Look, I can't argue with that, frankly. And again, we will know Monday night. The deadline is 5 again, but we will know by probably 7 who will be invited to New York. I mean, that's how quickly they do the tabulation with this. So that will be announced at some point on Monday night. So yes, it is for his schools and as for his talent. It is truly one of the more unique Heisman weekends that we will have in quite a while.
He is Brent Beaird. I am Seth Harp. PodUp with Matthews in the morning, a service of Comfort Temp Heating and Air. You need the heat today, don't you, gang? At least the last week you've needed it. Your number one local HVAC company, professional and experienced technicians, there to help you, inform you throughout the entire process. Take a look, comforttemp.com. That's comforttemp.com. Comfort Temp Heating and Air. Comfort is their business. Peace of mind is the promise. From that to this, I know that yesterday was National Signing Day. What Billy Napier has done in the last month at Florida has been remarkable. Depending on what outlet you follow, he's in the top 15, right? I've seen him as high as 9, as low as 14. He's a top 15 class for a guy that was 50th or 45th or 50th heading into the Georgia weekend. It's remarkable. He's the comeback kid, maybe a comeback greater than Donald Trump's even, from just a couple of what he's done. Brent, now that he has done this, and let's face it, he's more than righted the ship with what he's done. He's got guys coming in at various positions. Quarterback is pretty much solidified for the next 2 years here. The one area that they wanted to really improve on was the trenches. They've done that. I have, it's been Billy I've known him for a couple years now, at least covering him and doing what we've done, Brent. This is one of these things, and you and I have talked about this. Everybody, and I love the movie The Godfather, so I'm going to make a reference here, Brett. Everybody bailed on this dude 45 minutes into The Godfather. All right, Vito gets shot. Oh my God, the movie's over. And you and I have talked about, can we just watch the rest of the movie? Let's just watch the rest of the movie. Let's watch the rest of the movie. And here, I'm going to say something, Brett, that and I don't think a lot of people know. Vegas had Florida at 4.5 wins. They're going to have at least 7, maybe 8. 2 teams in the SEC are at the top of the list compared to what Vegas thought. And that's all I care about. Any predictions or prognostications, because those billion-dollar cathedrals didn't build themselves out there by you being right and them being wrong. They said 4.5 for Florida. The only other one that they missed by 2.5, all right, they had 3.5 for Vanderbilt. So Florida and Vanderbilt, in terms of wins, overachieved more than any other school in the conference. So, Brent Beaird, I ask you, Billy Napier with this recruiting class, Billy Napier with the season that he did, Shane Beamer, Billy Napier, what are we looking at for SEC Coach of the Year here?
Well, Clark Lee may be involved with that a little bit,
as well.
but that's going to be interesting to see where that goes. Frankly, you really could make an argument for both of them. Maybe Beamer may win it because they were people like if you were or voters like it if you were involved at the end in the playoffs. And although I don't think South Carolina will get in, they might, and they certainly that would be worthy of doing it. And few teams have done what South Carolina has done this year. But Beamer may get it because they are, and they have been involved with the playoff talk. But, they're both worthy. And to back up what you're saying, I won't go into all the names, but the main thing about recruiting is, did you meet your needs? They got 3 running backs. They did get a quarterback, Tramel Jones from Jacksonville, who's a good one. They got 3 wide receivers and 1 tight end. They certainly got some offensive linemen. They got 3 of those. They got 2 edge guys, 2 defense, and 3 more defensive linemen, 2 linebackers. They got 3 defensive backs. They got 2 really good kickers, frankly. 24/7, I know, has gotten them around a B+. They're number 11 in 24/7. But to your point, Seth, and a lot of people may not know the names, and I get that. But it's worth pointing out and I'll echo what you said. We've rarely ever seen a team shoot up the rankings from the 50s to either inside the top 10 or just right outside the top 10 like Florida has.
And I look at this just for the sheer standpoint that you never judge a book until you get to the end. And I talk about watching the movie and letting everything play out. Think about where we were after week 3, Brent. The two coaches in America who were fired were Billy Napier and Marcus Freeman.
No doubt. Yes.
Fired. And look where we are today. And I mean, it's absolutely amazing. I tip my hat to Billy Napier, a lot of people. And when I guest hosted with you on here, a lot of people bailed. And hell, Brent, we did a show about a month ago that everybody wanted him fired for wearing a black shirt on the sidelines. And now here we are, and we're talking about Coach of the Year and a guy that, I mean, for all intents and purposes, if you're Vegas, and I got a couple buddies out there, are setting Florida's win total at 9 for next year.
Yeah.
Which is, I think, probably right about where it would be. So I think it's pretty remarkable that's where we are. PodUp with Matthews in the morning. He is Brent Beaird. I am Seth Harp. Is brought to you in part by a Florida Cracker Kitchen for original Floridians. Great food, Southern hospitality in the center of the universe. Good old fancy Brooksville, Florida. FloridaCracker.com. Let's see here. What do we got? Greg writing in, Billy still hasn't proven he can coach in tight situations. Oh, well, I mean, I guess, yeah. I mean, hey, not everybody's happy, right? I mean, 7-5. I think I told every Florida fan 7-5 after the Texas A&M game. You'd have taken it, but I guess we gotta get him in a tight game. Maybe you can get into a bowl game. Brent, the more and more as time goes by, the more I'm hearing Jacksonville for the Gator Bowl, or the big push I keep hearing is Tampa in the Gasparilla Bowl. Florida Duke potential and Florida Louisville potential in Jacksonville. If it's the Gasparilla Bowl, I mean, I know USF's out now, right? Because they're heading out to Hawaii, but I also saw what Florida Syracuse is a possibility in Jacksonville, but also what Florida is it Memphis down in Tampa. So what are you hearing as of today? I know we won't know till Sunday, and it's important. And Brett, I think you'll attest to this as well. It's important because if somehow SMU gets beat and Alabama gets bumped out of the college football playoff with SMU and Clemson both getting in, that sends a trickle-down effect to the bowl games.
Sure it does. Yeah, there's no doubt about that. I mean, obviously, we're pretty selfish over here. We'd love to see them in the Gator Bowl. And there would be a tremendous crowd with this, too. But if they stay in the state of Florida, I mean, either Tampa or Jacksonville, I think there would be a lot of folks excited about being able to see them in a bowl game. But look, what you said a minute ago, I can't tell you, and I'm sure you did too, how many Gator fans that I heard from before the season. I would sign a contract right now, they would say, for 6-6 or 7-5. So that's the promise that we've got. And by the way, let me throw this out there too. We pretty well know who Florida is going to play next year. We don't know what the position is, but believe it or not, the schedule reveal for the SEC is going to be next Wednesday night on the SEC network. So, Seth, I don't know why they don't wait and do this in January. I mean, they'll have a good crowd to see it next week, but I just think in the midst of everything going on, but still, folks may want to see that. We'll remind people of it with that too. But I think right now I'm probably hearing Jacksonville, because I can tell you this, some media friends have said that the Gator Bowl would give anything to have Florida. And look, I don't blame them as far as tickets and attention and things of that nature. A short drive basically for most of the state to some degree. That's what I'm hearing more than anything else.
Yeah, and I think at that point you'd pretty much chalk up anybody out of the ACC. Maybe a Clemson loss to SMU pushes Clemson into that game.
Sure.
So, yeah, and that's one of those things too where you'll pack that place. With Duke, I don't know what Duke would bring fan wise. Syracuse wouldn't bring nearly the
Right.
impact. But a Clemson, all of a sudden you circle around a Clemson Florida game, you have a chance to sell that sucker out.
You would.
Yeah, so that'd be pretty cool. We look at all the matchups and everything that we have in front of us, and Brent, we'll get to the big matchups, coming up here at the beginning of the second half of this hour. But I want to look at a couple of the ones that, as we head into championship weekend and their impact. And the big one, not only Ashton Genty can put on a show and maybe try to change some minds when it comes to the Heisman Trophy race Friday night, a game that you'll hear on ESPN 98.1 FM, 850 AM WRUF, by the way, at 7:30. But UNLV and Boise State. Let's start off with this, Brent. What does a UNLV win in this game? We know what a Boise State win means. They're one of the top 4 seeds. What's a UNLV win mean?
UNLV with Barry Odom have been incredible this year, and I mean it would. I think it would probably mean a lot of attention to them that they normally don't get.
Yeah.
I know their coordinators have been well thought of. As a matter of fact, their offense coordinator, before Mike Norvell hired Gus Malzahn, the UNLV offense coordinator was considered for Florida State. So right now UNLV and the college football playoff rankings, they're number 20. I mean, that may get them a little further inside the maybe to bypass Missouri's 19.
Yeah.
So that might be a possibility. But I mean, you think about that, Seth. What in the world will that do for that program if they're inside the top 20?
We talked about you and I talked about this in the summer when all the conference realignment in the Pac-12, that UNLV should be a linchpin for the Pac-12 because you've got Vegas.
Yeah, absolutely.
And just what it would mean to the conference, and you could play championship games in that monster of a stadium and all that. I look at it and it's amazing that you can talk about UNLV in the college football playoff. And here's where the rub starts, right? If UNLV beats Boise State, then you don't have the best 12 teams in. And
yeah.
If the goal is the best 12 teams, then then you start to split hairs here, right? Boise State's is Boise State out? Probably. At that point, and then UNLV's 12, and that means Arizona State slides up to 4. That's why, I think you'll agree with me, Brent, at this point, at this thing, that the teams that are in without a doubt are Oregon, Penn State are in without a doubt. Texas,
yes.
Notre Dame, that gets you, 3-4. Tennessee, Ohio State, 5-6. Georgia, let's face it, 7.
Yeah, no doubt.
Did I say Tennessee, 8?
Yes.
And then after that, we have 8 locked, and then the Big 12 winner will be in, so it'll be Iowa State or Arizona State. That gets us to 9. I look at this, and everybody was worried that the excitement was going to be taken away by expanding
really?
it to 12, and here we are. And Brett, there's not one of the 12 slots that's locked. We have teams that are in, but we have no idea who's going where.
Yeah, well, and that's the beauty of the playoff. And again, we will have 12 teams this year, 12 teams next year, and then in 2026, we will expand it to either 14 or 16. Yeah. Now, obviously, that would take care of a lot of situations. But look, this is almost amusing in some ways. And I'll be honest with you, Seth, I'd rather deal with this than when we had the 4. And you had some really deserving teams at 5 and 6. I'd rather deal with this than leaving the 5 and 6 teams out, frankly. So that's going to be the fascinating thing about this is really to see where it goes. And when you get in the weeds of this, SMU at 8, Indiana at 9. My Stars. Who in the world would have thought at the beginning of the year? Then in the college football playoff rankings, the next to the last top 25, SMU would be 8, Indiana would be 9, and Boise would be 10. And then obviously you go with Alabama Miami, Ole Miss, South Carolina situation. So, well, obviously we've never had anything like it. But to your point, Seth, it's not like we've had kind of recently with the four. I mean, we're literally going to have people on the edge of their seat when the pairings are announced on Sunday, and that's what they wanted.
It's going to be great. I do have caution though for Gator fans, because last year Florida State was on the outside looking in, one spot, right? This year it's going to be Miami on the outside looking in. So now the conspiracy theories can start. If Florida's sitting there at 9-3 and 13 next year, Brent, then I guess we'll have another issue on our hands where the committee hates the state of Florida.
Yes.
PodUp with Matthews in the morning on this Thursday, a service of Ruse Ogra, State Farm Insurance, a team of dedicated insurance professionals ready to help your life go in the right direction with the right financial decisions for you and your family. Visit ograinsurance.com. That's OGRA insurance.com. Or give them a call, 352-240-1779. That's 352-240-1779. I know I got Brent for 15 minutes. We're at halftime here. I'm going to look at all these championship games and everything that's at stake and look at potential matchups that Brent would like to see and that I would like to see here in the opening round of the college football playoff. He is Brent Beaird. I am Seth Harp. And you are watching and listening to this Thursday, December 5th edition of PodUp with Matthews in the morning.
Premium sponsors are Campus USA Credit Union, Crime Prevention Security Systems, Titan MRI, Meldon Law, QC Kinetics, UF Health Orthopedics and Sports Medicine Institute, Dave & Buster's. Gridiron sponsors are Florida Cracker Kitchen, Comfort Temp, Peachland Dental, Ruse Ogra State Farm, Tropical Smoothie Cafe, Cogent Bank, UF Bookstores, Florida Victorious, Quality Plumbing, Silverback Concrete, Electronics World, Miapa Latin Cafe, 84 Lumber, Baker's Sporting Goods, Big Mills Cheesesteaks, Celebrate Primary Care, Dowling Signs, Gator Dominoes, Ironwood Golf Course, Okido America, Gator Bait Media, Bishop's Barbecue, Los Linderos Tequila, Sunshine Holiday Lights, MG&A Wealth, Nest and Wow. Watch and listen to us live on Facebook and YouTube. Listen to the podcast whenever on Apple or Google Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. Remember to like, follow, and subscribe so you don't miss an episode. To become a sponsor, call my man Freddie at 352-284-3733.
After serving over 100 families over the past several years, we're super excited to kick off the holiday season. I'm Dylan, I'm Garrett, and we're Sunshine Holiday Lights. We all know how stressful it can be to decorate your home during the holidays. Our services include installation of all material, maintenance, takedown, and storage of the material throughout the year. If you want to spend more time with your family this year, give Sunshine Holiday Lights a call.
Unleash the Inferno.
Moving along on this Thursday edition of PodUp with Matthews in the morning, of course, coming to you live from the Crime Prevention System Security Home Studios. Large enough to serve you, small enough to care. You have any questions? Fire away, courtesy of Facebook Live, Meldon Law, the only official law firm and accident partner of the Florida Gators. And also YouTube questions, courtesy of Quality Plumbing. Quality Plumbing Repair, emergency repair since 1984. That's 40 years, gang. Their name says it all. And also Titan MRI Hotline. Fire away. Your text 352-353-7465. That's 352-353-7465. I have something for you here. Campus USA Credit Union, this day in sports history, brought to you by Campus USA Credit Union. Put some star power to work in your financial life with Campus USA Credit Union. Let's see here. I got two big ones today. The first of which, 36 years ago today, the 53rd Heisman Trophy, 36 years ago today was awarded to Tim Brown Fighting Irish, baby. The last time Notre Dame had a Heisman Trophy winner 36 years ago today, courtesy of Campus USA Credit Union. And this is crazy. 32 years ago today. 32 years ago today. A good thing Shane's not around today. Alabama beats Florida in the first ever SEC championship game in football, Brent. So that was 32 years. 32 years.
I was there, and I cannot tell you how cold it was on that day. So, and the first one was in Legion Field in Birmingham. And people wonder, well, where was it before it went to Atlanta? Well, that's where it was. It was in Birmingham for about 2 games, and then they shifted the SEC championship game to Atlanta.
Crazy stuff, man. That's hard. It's 32 years ago. I remember I had the flu laying on my couch puking all day. There's a reason.
Oh, man.
Back in Indiana, I thought it was cool because like, what's this conference championship stuff?
Yeah.
Let's see here. You have some player movement, people coming and going, Brent, that I know we want to highlight here.
Yeah, and I'll be brief on this, but I'll just run through some teams here. Kobe Prentice, wide receiver of Alabama, he is supposed to be going into the portal. Now, what we understand for Arkansas, Sam Pittman will be back next year, and they've got a bowl game. That's important. They are losing Landon Jackson, one of the better defensive ends in the SEC, to the NFL draft. And by the way, we all know about Nico Lamaliva, who is at Tennessee. Well, Arkansas actually got his brother, Madden, Madden, in a kind of a flip. So I wanted to pass that on. So, and I'm not saying the brother will play immediately, but they will face each other at some point. Auburn got Deuce Knight, the quarterback that they really wanted. So I think he will help them replace Peyton Thorne. So I think that will be important. Also, Georgia does play this weekend. They've got between Steve Sarkisian and Kirby Smart, they've got all the luncheon. So you'll have press conference today with that one. Dane Key, the wide receiver out of Kentucky, is going into the portal. He had 750 receiving yards, nearly 2,000 yards. So someone's going to snatch him up pretty quickly. In that they're really impressed with him. Now I need to confirm this, and I'm going to I don't know if I want to say rumor because I've seen a report on it that Harold Perkins, the tremendous linebacker at LSU, may be in the transfer portal. I can guarantee you he won't be in there long either if that report is true. So I'm being a little bit cautious at that point with that one. And Jackson Arnold, the Oklahoma quarterback, who's been really up and down, is going into the transfer portal. Also, that just kind of came about as of yesterday. South Carolina, and I'll make this my last note for the teams, but South Carolina, new athletic director, he is from TCU, Jeremiah Detone, and I may be mispronouncing that, but Tanner was their AD for years. Ray Tanner, the baseball coach, so he is going. So Seth, in the midst of all this stuff, there's still some pretty interesting news around the league.
He is Brent Beaird. I am Seth Harp. PodUp with Matthews in the morning with you here on this Thursday, December 5th. Quick reminder, PodUp with Matthews in the morning is a service of Florida Victorious, proud NIL partner of the Florida Gators. Join today to help make Florida victorious. Conference championship games, Brent. I know you got a couple more minutes here with us, laying down the slate. I can tell you on ESPN Gainesville, WRUF. Friday night, we're carrying the Mountain West Championship, and then we got the trifecta, baby. We got the triple header on Saturday. This usually doesn't happen because women's basketball, men's basketball, volleyball, something knocks us off, at least for one of those games, but not this Saturday. We've got the Big 12 championship at noon, the SEC championship at 4, and then the Big 10 championship at night at 8 o'clock. So no other station in America is going to have all three of them, baby. We got all three of them back to back to back on Saturday. Let's start off first with the Big 12 out of the gate. Iowa State, taking on Arizona State. Pretty simple, Brent. Winning, you're in.
Yeah, and I don't think anybody thought at the beginning of the year that's what we'd have. But that's one of the exciting things right now about where we're going with this is both those schools have had tremendous years. They've had their share of controversy, but this is one of those that is pretty straightforward, and I'm glad you're carrying it because that's going to be a really good game.
I'll take the Sun Devils. I'll take the Sun Devils.
Yeah.
State. I punch them in. I like Boise State Friday night too.
Agree.
It's a small spread there, but Boise State, Arizona State. I think Arizona State covers, and I think Boise State covers as well. Let's pivot to the SEC here. 4:00 Saturday. Georgia, Texas. They met about 6 weeks ago. Georgia went into Austin and absolutely punished Texas. It really wasn't competitive. A couple of questionable calls even helped Texas as opposed to Georgia. We thought that was going to be the biggest fan controversy of the year. It turned out not to be, or at least controversy. Flag planting ended up being it. But when it's all said and done, Brent, here we go. We got a rematch. Texas and Georgia Saturday afternoon in Atlanta. What do you think?
Amazingly, Texas defensive line may make the difference in the game. But look, the SEC championship to Kirby Smart is incredibly important. And look, they somehow beat Georgia Tech in a game they really should have lost, and give kudos to Brent Key and Georgia Tech. So I'll take Georgia simply because they understand what is at stake here, and they understand how to win games like this. But would it shock me if Texas won? Absolutely not.
Looking at the spread on this one, Texas a 2.5-point favorite.
Yeah.
So I think Texas will win. I think when you see somebody for the second time and revenge, and I mean Georgia's up and down, and let's face it, last week they had a down week.
Sure did.
And then they bounced back. So who knows? But I think Georgia's still in. To me, the difference in this one, Brent, if Georgia wins, they're probably the 2 or the 3 seed. If Georgia loses,
yes.
Then I still have a sneaking suspicion they're going to some way, Brett, get Georgia at Ohio State in the first round of the college football playoff. And I think if a Texas win would knock Georgia down or keep Georgia down there around 9, and you get Georgia at Ohio State in a 9-8 matchup potentially. Texas win, they're number 2. I think unless Penn State upsets Oregon, then Texas would move up to number 1 with a win. But let's do this one too. Oregon, Penn State. The Ducks a 3.5-point favorite Saturday night.
Oregon's just playing so well right now, and Dylan Gabriel has just been absolutely on fire. A lot of people thought that obviously this would be Ohio State, but it didn't come out that way. So, and again, isn't this another big platform, a big stage for James Franklin, as Seth, to be able to win a game that he has been so unable to win on the big stage? So to me, that gives you the drama for this game that you probably need.
And think about this, how crazy this is, Brett. We're talking about how he can't win the big one. And if he loses this weekend, they'll say it again. But if he wins and Georgia wins, then Penn State's number 1. It's just amazing how this all shakes itself out. I had, that debate was one of them of games to carry. So we're carrying the Big Ten championship. Also Clemson SMU at the exact same time. SMU a 2-point favorite. What's amazing to me about all these games, Brett, is not a single one of them is more than 3.5 points in the spread. Yeah.
It's really some of the most even games that we've ever seen. I mean, obviously a huge game here with a lot at stake. That could decide if Alabama stays in or not. But I will tell you this, and to answer a question that you asked a few minutes ago, what they really want, and we can never forget this, is either Alabama, Penn State, or Alabama Notre Dame at Notre Dame or at Penn State, depending on how this shakes out. We can never forget how important television is here and what they want. So to your point a few minutes ago about a Georgia-Ohio State, I've also seen Georgia-Indiana is a possibility. I've seen Ohio State, Tennessee. But Shane, you understand this as well as anybody I know. TV matchups, advertisers, I'm not saying all this stuff is fair, but what I am saying is that is a big part of what's going on behind the scenes.
Yeah, and let's face it, when it's all said and done, Brent, you could see potentially 3 SEC teams if Georgia gets beat. Georgia, Alabama, okay, and Tennessee. Georgia, Alabama, Tennessee, at Penn State, at Notre Dame, at Ohio State. You have 3 SEC. Brett, I was looking at this today. Let's say Penn State gets beat. They're favored to get beat. Let's say Georgia gets beat. They're favored to get beat. Could you imagine December 21st kicking off? And I can tell you, I grew up in Northern. I can tell you what December 21st in South Bend is like. All right.
Oh, I bet.
We just here minus 25 more degrees. So you could have on December 21st, you could start off with Alabama at Notre Dame, followed by Georgia at Penn State, and then wrap up with Tennessee. Ready for this? Followed by Tennessee at Ohio State. That could be your lineup for opening day. I think.
Yes. And look, this is what people have wanted to see for years: is SEC teams going to cold environments and to see where that would go. The 3 games you just mentioned. Now, 4 million viewers is gold as far as TV and advertisers are concerned. With those 3 games, Seth, could you get 8 to 12 million viewers per game?
Oh man, in a heartbeat, right? I mean,
absolutely.
Only question is, which one would you put at night? Which poor SEC team are you going to try to freeze to death at 8 p.m. In the college football playoff? Now, look, if Georgia wins, it throws a wrench into all this, and Texas hosts. But if Georgia gets beat and Oregon wins, then I think you're looking at SEC teams, 3 SEC teams going on the road to.
Yes.
I think you are. It's just kind of one of those self out. All right, Brent, I know you are going to have a not do anything Saturday. I know I am going to be not doing anything Saturday. Hope the missus is ready for that. Told her you want to get a lot done. We better get it done Friday night because.
That's right. Yes. I love that.
You got to get running as always, Brent. Thanks. I'll close this thing out and appreciate you swinging by as always, man.
Great. Thanks for helping us. Appreciate that much. Thanks to Zach for being the great producer that he is. And we will talk soon. I hope everybody enjoys the weekend.
Thanks, Brent. Brent Beaird with us here on PodUp with Matthews in the morning. Of course, Brent coming to you live. Crime Prevention Security Home System Studios, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. On top of that, also courtesy of Comfort Temp Heating and Air. Needed that heater to kick in the last few days, huh? Courtesy of your number 1 local HVAC company, professional and experienced technicians, keeping you informed throughout the entire project. Check them out, comforttemp.com. That's Comfort Temp Heating and Air. Comfort is their business. Peace of mind is the promise. So yeah, there we go. We just bring up interesting facets here in terms of how this all lays itself out and what you get if the favorites win this weekend. And it's kind of fascinating when you think about it. If it goes chalk, which it won't, but it's also not going to go the other way, which is chaos, every single upset. So if the favorites win, then you have Oregon with number 1 ranking and of course the bye. You have Texas, number 2 ranking and the bye. You have SMU, number 3 ranking and the bye. And number 4, Boise State with the bye. And then Arizona State sits back there at the back end of this sucker. And then your debates can start to go here a little bit. You know, I talked about that scenario in which you see 3 SEC teams go on the road to take on, 3 Northern teams. And it also can swing in a couple other directions too. I mean, if somehow Clemson wins, then and if Boise State gets beat, then Clemson is not. This is what's crazy about this. If Clemson somehow wins and knocks off SMU and Boise State gets beat, then your top 4, in theory, could be Oregon, Texas. Ready for this? Clemson, 3rd. Clemson 3rd, Arizona State 4th. And then all of a sudden back there at 12, you have UNLV. So it's going to be absolutely amazing to watch this play out this weekend. There's so many different scenarios that could lay themselves out. I do know that you're going to get at least one SEC team at Notre Dame or at Penn State. You're going to get that. That's one thing that no matter what happens coming up this week and after Saturday, the one thing you're going to get is an SEC team in the North. You just are, just because of the ambiance of it and what it's going to mean. That you're going to get a cold, snowy type day on TV, which everybody loved what we saw with the Bills this last weekend, right? Oh, the 49ers, a warm weather team stuck in the cold. How do they handle it? The Raiders and the Patriots some 23 years ago. Oh, the Raiders in Foxborough in the snow. How do they handle that? You're going to want that pageantry 3-4 days before Christmas. And you can line that thing up. And there is for an SEC perspective, a little bit of a nightmare scenario where if Georgia gets beat, that you have 3 SEC teams traveling well north of the Mason-Dixon line to take on the likes of Notre Dame, Ohio State, and Penn State. So it'll be interesting to see how this lays itself out coming up over the course of this weekend. Looking forward to it. Like I mentioned, the station that I program, ESPN 98.1 FM, 850 AM, WRUF, going to carry the Mountain West Championship. And then the triple header on Saturday with the Big 12 kicking off at noon, SEC Championship at 4, and then the Big 10 at night. So you're going to get to hear all of those coming up this weekend. A couple things that I want to talk about before a wee bit ado. It's interesting because, I see it from all directions. I hear it from all directions. The big money side behind the scenes with the boosters and pushing things. And of course, fan displeasure and fan hype. And it's kind of crazy how we went from week 3 after the A&M game where everybody wanted Billy fired to now Billy and, Shane Beamer a 1-2 punch for SEC Coach of the Year with Clark Lay right there as well. It's, nobody overachieved or surpassed expectations in the SEC this year more than Florida. Florida and Vanderbilt with 2.5 more wins than Vegas thought. Pretty impressive. I was thinking about something with all this. I went back through and looked at what Florida athletics has accomplished in the 2024 calendar year. So going back to December, December 31st, clock strikes midnight. What Florida Gator athletics have accomplished in the last 12 months. This is just, when you take a step back and look at it, amazing. Okay. The men's basketball team makes the NCAA tournament, right? Goes on a great run, goes to the SEC championship game, takes on Auburn. If Henglatten doesn't get hurt, Florida probably wins the SEC championship in basketball. Leg gets boogered up, they get beat. But the run that Todd Golden went on last year, absolutely amazing. And you juxtapose that to what he's doing right now. Florida's top 10 basketball team, gang. Florida at the end of the year is going to be a 1 or 2 or 3 seed in the NCAA tournament. They are. Florida's going to contend. I think Florida right now is probably looking at a 29-5, 30-4 type of year. Florida's got a chance. I mean, they really do. When it's all said and done, to be a 1 seed. That's how dynamic this team is. So Todd Golden, juxtaposition. Last year, what he did is the January, February into March, and now where he is. Right. Then let's look at everything in between there. Softball probably wins themselves a national championship if they get past Oklahoma. Walk-off home run. Final 3, softball. Goes to Oklahoma City. Baseball. rough regular season, what Sully does at the end, gets you to the College World Series, and then starts throwing some daggers out there and gets to the Final Three in Omaha. Amazing. And of course, we know what track and field and golf and tennis always make big runs. Track and field primarily always winning national championships. Okay, football. Billy struggles out of the gate, but according to Vegas, from where they were at the beginning of the year, surpasses expectations more than any other school in the conference. Predicted 4.5, finishes with 7. So, Gator football, what Billy's done, Todd Golden, as of today, where we are December 5th. Go back and look at the spring sports. Softball, Final 3. Baseball, Final 3. Track and field, championships galore. Florida has had the most successful across the board athletic campaign in terms of teams in their final finishes of any SEC school in the country. So, gang, I'm here to tell you, what does that mean? Who gets credit for that? Should be the AD, right? Should be. Scott Strickland should be SEC Athletic Director of the Year. He should be. Look at his accomplishments. As Ben Shapiro says, facts don't care about your feelings. They don't. Scott Strickland should be Athletic Director of the Year in the SEC. And, I hear it, and fans upset with the football program's progress at the beginning of the year and how Scott hasn't hired anybody that's won national championships. And it's like, okay, well, yeah, he's been here for 4 years, 5 years, 6 years. Well, look at all the championships Jeremy Foley won. For 20 years. So you wanted Scott to fire successful coaches? You wanted to fire track and field? You wanted him to fire golf? You wanted him to fire? Oh, I forgot. Even shame on me, Mary Wise back in the NCAA tournament again. Another top 20 finish again. So if you're going to blame Scott, go ahead and knock yourself out. But somebody's going to give him credit when it's due, and it's due right now. Now, Scott Strickland, SEC Athletic Director of the Year, most successful 2024 seasons of all sports. All of them. And the way this man has been treated, been ridiculous. Ridiculous. And now, all of a sudden, it's like, oh, well, yeah, Billy, yeah, it's working. It's working. It's all because of DJ Lagaway. So what? So what? Lucky. You're lucky. He's lucky he's got DJ. And Mike Holmgren's lucky he's got Patrick Mahomes. The Powerball or the Mega Millions is almost $600 million. Somebody's going to be lucky on Friday night, or is it tomorrow night? It's tomorrow night. So what? I just, you look around at how quickly things change. And when I was hosting just a month ago, Strickland needs to go. Billy Napier's wearing black. Comments, need to go. I've always said this. Watch the whole movie. Don't make your decision in a movie halfway through it. Watch the whole thing. The whole thing. Same thing with games. Oh, we're getting beat. This sucks. Can we watch the rest of the game? Can we watch the second half? Can we? I bring this up. Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs have won 3 Super Bowls. They're losing at halftime of all 3 of them. Can we watch the rest of the game? Good idea. And the job again. We talk about Billy and, he's turned the corner. He has. It's amazing what happens when you watch the whole movie, isn't it? It's amazing what happens when you listen to the whole song. It's amazing what happens when you read the whole book. Let it play out. Let it play out. And it did. So, again, I think the debate, Shane Beaver probably should win SEC Coach of the Year, but you got to give credit where credit's due. And, Billy won't win it. Make a case for it. Will Billy be in the top 25 next year with Florida? Probably right on the cusp of the top 25. If not, then, an early win over Miami will definitely propel them into that. Although the AP rankings they don't mean anything anymore, right, gang? The whole ranking that matters is where you are right now, the college football one that pops off starting in November. But as I wrap up today, I think it's important because all it's done has been a cavalcade of Scott Strickland, incessant, ridiculous ridiculous bashing of Scott Strickland and Billy Napier, and a criticism of Billy Napier was fine. And you want to fire a coach after 3 games? Fine. Remember, Notre Dame was going to fire Marcus Freeman after the Northern Illinois game. And now they're if they play Alabama, they're a 3-point favorite, according to Vegas. College football playoff. So the incessant bashing of Scott Strickland without facts. It's the most successful athletic programs across the board in the SEC in 2024. There you go. Seth Harp, in for Shane Matthews today. Got to thank Brent Beaird, Freddie Wiebe, Zach Rothrock, the entire gang for putting this thing together on this Thursday, December 5th. Really quick, I know that JC and Shane are going to give you their picks tomorrow. I like Texas to cover. I do. Give me Penn State over Oregon. That's my one upset. Give me Penn State over Oregon that throws a little bit of a wrench in all of this thing. I think SMU beats Clemson. They'll cover that. In the Big 12, Arizona State, I think